True Stories of People's Terrifying Encounters with Evil by Chrissy Stockton. Narrated by Otis Jiry. Pounding on the door. I'm in college and live on campus in a dorm. The dorm is very old and community style. I've been living here for 2 months with my roommate and everything has been fine. Then, in the last week, we've all had all of our lights in our room, just our room, go out. We've been trying to put maintenance requests in for the past week, but the website won't allow us to do it for some reason. So last night, we went to bed in our many layers and multiple blankets to battle the cold. I'm usually a lucid dreamer and can wake myself up if I need to. Last night, though, I heard my roommate yelling from the hallway that her key wasn't working in the lock and that she was needed in now. So I stumbled out of bed and was reaching for the lock on the door when I looked over and saw her asleep in her own bed. I backed away from the door to go back to sleep, thinking that it had been a dream that I thought was real. I took a last look at my sleeping roommate and went to turn around to climb into my bed when I saw the shadow under the door. The door is a good inch or two off the ground, so I bent down to see if there was someone standing at our door or one across the hall. When I was eye level with the crack, I saw a pair of boots facing our door. Then the person turned away and I heard the stairwell door open. I couldn't even turn on the lights because the bulbs were out, so I crawled into bed with my lamp and sat there for an hour because I was freaking out. To get onto a girl's floor, you have to have a student card of someone who lives there, and they lock up the building at midnight every night to make sure that only students and guests are inside. We've had problems with homeless people sleeping in the basements of some buildings. I was freaking out because the boots were men's boots. Number 2. This is exactly why everyone needs a guard dog. This is a true story that happened to me. I dated a kid in high school for about 3 months. He became very controlling and jealous over that time. He actually tried to choke me once over a comment I had made, and I immediately ended things with him. Fast forward about 9 years. I'm single, successful job, own a house, had a wonderful 220-pound St. Bernard named Sergeant. My life was full. I had no want for anything, especially a relationship. Out of the blue, I get a Facebook message from the guy I dated in high school. He asked how I was and things like he thought about me all the time and wanted to get together to have dinner. I politely but firmly said no, and I thought that was that. Unfortunately, it turns out that he is extremely persistent. He started messaging me on Facebook 2 or 3 times a day. I ignored him and continued working and living my life. It got to the point where he would message me over 10 times a day, so of course I blocked him and again didn't think anything of it. Then things got a little concerning after that. He somehow got my phone number and started texting me more than 20 times a day. Some of the texts started creeping me out. He said things like, "Saw you in your yard today, you look good," and "I always get what I want." What bothered me the most, though, was that he found out where I lived. As a 23-year-old, I have no reason for a home phone and just use my cell phone, so my address wasn't published anywhere I was aware of. It just sent up a couple of red flags. My St. Bernard was a big ham, so he sleeps in bed with me at night. One night, I woke up, and my St. Bernard was covering me with his whole body and shaking all over. I lifted my head a little to get a better look at his face and was shocked to see he had what I can only describe as a silent, feral snarl in his face, staring out my bedroom window. I turned my head because it was the only thing I could move, having an oversized lapdog pinning me to the bed, and saw the son of a bitch that was internet stalking me for months. The SOB looked straight into my eyes and hightailed it out of there. I unburied my arm, grabbed my phone, and called the police. I live in a small town, so they were there in under 2 minutes. When they looked around the house, they found cigarette butts on the ground by the window and a wet substance on the side of my house under the window that turned out to be, you guessed it, semen. He was arrested after they linked the DNA of the semen to a rape he had committed and served time for in a different county. I have absolutely no doubt that if my dog hadn't been there, I would have been raped and possibly worse. Sergeant passed away 2 months later after being hit by a car. Nothing will ever replace my big hero, but my Cane Corso Mastiff police-trained protection dog I got shortly after Sergeant passed has a special spot in my heart, just like Sarge does. Number 3. My brother's girlfriend moved in and brought her demons with her. This happened to my older brother. His ex-girlfriend used to live with my parents and me at our house until they could get back on their feet after a financially difficult period. Chrissy used to tell me stories about how she has always been able to see things ever since she was a little girl. When they moved in, I immediately could tell that something had changed. The air felt heavier, and it felt like there was always something watching you, especially at night. Well, what happened to my brother was nothing short of a paranormal activity scene. Anyone who owns an Xbox Connect knows that it throws those green dots all over the place. My brother woke up in the middle of the night and saw a reflection in their TV. There was someone standing at the foot of his bed, and the Connect registered it. The figure crossed the length of his bed and stood next to him. His girlfriend woke up and the figure vanished. After he told me that, I always kept the light on and was happy when they moved to Ohio. When Krista left, so did whatever she brought with her. I believed in paranormal stuff before, but it was what nightmares are made of. Number 4. Footsteps. We lived in a bungalow-type house. The dining room would be a hallway away from the 2 rooms facing each other. I was in one of the bedrooms after not finding an interesting show on TV, so I turned it off. I grabbed a magazine and flipped through the pages. I usually love to read about horror stories or articles since it's more interesting than the local news. When I finished the last article, I hear footsteps coming from the hallway. You see, I know my family really well. I know whose footsteps belong to who, so when I heard a different type of thud, my heart started beating faster. The footsteps sounded like it was running around. It would run in circles at a certain part, then run back to the end of the hallway, and it continued a few times. I wanted to wake my niece, whom was peacefully sleeping, but she wouldn't even stir. Gulping down, I went to open the door and ran to the dining room where the hallway ends. I saw my other niece watching TV with the maid and my father cooking. With a shaky voice, I asked, "Were you running around?" My 6-year-old niece looked at me oddly before shaking her head. "We've just been watching TV ever since you went inside," the maid answered. I looked at my father, whom was suddenly intrigued of my sudden nervousness. "Pa, didn't you hear anything?" He shook his head. "Someone was running around," I exclaimed. My father shook his head with a smile. "Must be one of our friends again. Our house used to be a rice field. They say the Spaniards killed some people here and left hidden until someone found the remains."